Welcome back to Toy Crease in Anglesey, the second race of the weekend for the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship in very blustery, windy conditions. It's Winnie the Pooh weather out there at the moment. Adam Southgate and James Coleman on the front of the grid from Kevin Molyneux and Nick Hull. Gary Lawrence alongside Matthew Harris with Andrew Baker and Toby Smales in the mix. Gavin Johnson ahead of Peter Smith, Hugh Pert ahead of Ian Gribben, and the last man in, Lee Bowden in the production Boxster. 1.55 miles, very tricky conditions. The red lights come on, we wait for them to go out, and when they do, we're racing in Anglesey for the second time this weekend. Good start again from Southgate. Hull has got a good one, but Molyneux slightly better as they go through turn one, so the top four remains as was, but Coleman's going to get straight on with this, trying to make a move on the inside of Southgate, who protects that inside line like mad, and round the outside, Nick Hull is going to try and sweep all the way round the banking to get on the inside of Nick Hull for the next corner, to get on the inside of Molyneux, I should say, and it seems to have worked. Hull has got a good run, but Molyneux is still there to the inside. Hull's got to let him go in the hope that he can get the switch back underneath Molyneux. Southgate squiggling off the curb just a little bit, but Hull is alongside Molyneux, so this could be a great run to Rocket. Molyneux's going to try and sweep across. Gary Lawrence is still there in fifth position, trying to make his move to get up the inside. Molyneux diving for that inside line to stop any moves from Hull. Lawrence is there on the inside though. Nick Hull, ever the gentleman, giving him enough space to get round, but he moves to cover that inside line, and that's good work from Nick Hull to protect his position without losing one. So Nick Hull still right on the back of Kevin Molyneux. It's business resumed as it was from race one. So it's exactly the same top five as we started with. And let's see how these guys are going to run. Through Siemens and then dropping down to the braking zone into the bus stop. It's a real shame we're not using the full configuration of the circuit this time, as we could have used the very famous Tom Price straight, named after the only Welshman ever to win a Formula One race. Not in the Grand Prix World Championship, of course, you understand. That was the Race of Champions at Brands Hatch in 1975. SWAT nerd alert. Up to the hairpin as James Coleman again makes his run onto the back of Adam Southgate. Back on the power, and Southgate actually not looking as strong as Coleman is at this present moment in time. He's looking slightly weaker on this second start. Coleman's got a good run on him through Church. Is he going to get an opportunity to come through? They're going to draw alongside each other. Coleman's going to get there. Molyneux goes off on the background, and that's going to allow Hull a chance to get through into third position. Coleman slightly in front of Southgate and through. Sweeps through and then cuts across to the inside line. Good work from James Coleman. That was a really tough move to finish off, but he managed to make that one stick. Really good work from Dick Dastardly himself, 00. So Coleman is your leader, Southgate in second. Hull is now in a third position. I think Molyneux managed to get back on track in front of Gary Lawrence. Oh well, there's the proof. There's side by side. Lawrence is now on the outside of the hairpin at Peel, but crucially he's able to tuck back in and get back in front before the run to Siemens and then into the bus stop. But Coleman's running well in front of Adam Southgate as they come back onto the main straight. Now Southgate's got a good run on Coleman, so I have a feeling this is going to be a much closer race victory battle than we saw in race one. Coleman in front definitely shakes things up a little bit, so Southgate may get another run as they come into the banking through the long sweeping hairpin. That's the first sight I ever saw of this circuit as a youngster on a family holiday about 7 years ago, and we managed to pull the car up and watch some motorbike racing up on that banking, and I've always been in love with this place ever since. Kevin Molyneux now tucked up behind Gary Lawrence. Did Lawrence have his arm in the air? I wonder if Gary Lawrence is trying to have a gesture with Kevin Molyneux. I thought I saw his arm out the window there. Adam Southgate pushing very hard indeed, trying to close up on James Coleman. He was all over the curbs there on the exit of Church as they come up to Rocket and on towards the hairpin. Southgate pushing very hard indeed, not leaving anything to chance and giving every single millimetre a good going at around this circuit. The leader is Coleman. Southgate has beaten him more times than not over the course of the season, but Coleman would love another victory. That would definitely spur him on for the end of the season push as they come up towards Siemens. You can see there are still some damp patches around the circuit, but it's definitely drier than it was for race one. So into the bus stop they come. And James Coleman just finishing things off on the lap, but Adam Southgate is still right underneath him. If anything, Southgate is giving Coleman a much tougher run of it than Coleman gave Southgate in race 1. So this is going to be a very long race for James Coleman, having to defend his position. There's Kevin Molyneux again, running in behind Gary Lawrence as they battle for 4th and 5th. Rain's come back though, you can see that. Look, there's rain all over the windscreen, and that's Gary Lawrence overshooting just a tad at the banking. He obviously caught out by it. Further back, this is the nice little battle as Toby Smales is getting underneath the 99 of Matthew Harris. First weekend we've seen Toby Smales out and about, I believe. And good to see him back in action again. I'm wondering if we can tempt a few more drivers into the battles for the next few weeks as Smales makes his move up on the inside. Nicely done. So Smales is through into 6th position. Good little battle with these two as Smales lights a braze, heads towards us. I wonder how many other drivers we can tempt back into the championship. Down the straight, up towards the chicane at Rocket. Still a couple of rounds of the championship to go, of course. Oh, this is going to be a late braking for Matthew Harris. Oh, Smales chops across. Make sure that move doesn't come off. But that was some pretty exciting moves there. And Matthew Harris, absolutely not afraid to go for it. Good to see him really gaining in confidence as the season progresses. He's getting better and better at this, considering he's still got the rookie plates on the back of his car. Matthew Harris, he's doing a fine job. Down to the inside at Siemens again. Can he make it stick up the inside? He just gets a little bit hesitant on the way through the apex itself. And Smales is the one who really needs to yield, not Matthew Harris. So he needs to have a little bit more strength of will to keep that car travelling through the apex. He needs to come off the brake and just let the car coast through. And Smales will have to yield if he gets further enough in front through the apex. So a little bit more pushing from Harris needed. But also, he's got the rhythm and the speed to get on terms with Smales as they get very heavily on the brakes for the banking. The rain getting heavier, so they're not entirely sure what the circuit is going to be doing. Back on the power, Harris in behind Toby Smales. So can Toby hang on to this one, or is Matthew Harris going to give him an opportunity too many? They come off of Church, down that back straight. Long flowing sweeping back straight. Now it looks to me as though Harris has got another good run on Smales. They've come right over to the left side this time, even more so than they have done in previous laps. Has he got a good run up the inside? He's coming from a long way back, and even that move isn't going to work, but he's definitely caught right up to Smales, and Toby's going to get slightly nervous with Matthew Harris right underneath him. They come off the hairpin. Harris is still right there behind Toby Smales as he makes his way up towards Peel. Brakes, turns in, lets the car coast. I think Harris has lost a little bit of ground and momentum out of Rocket, unfortunately. So Smales has got himself a little bit more breathing space, but Harris has got speed over one lap to close up on him. So that shouldn't be too much of a difficulty as they drop out of the bus stop once again and onto the main straight. Matthew Harris still pushing for a top 6 finish and looking very strong here at Anglesey. Much stronger than we've seen him in previous weekends. Whatever changes they've made, whatever motivation he's been working on, his own personal gain as a racing driver is working well. Now Kevin Molyneux has finally put the windscreen wipers on full beam and he's now right on the back of Gary Lawrence once again as they battle for 4th position. Nick Hull through in 3rd place and is already fairly clear. Up towards Rocket once again into that hairpin as they sweep by along the back straight. Now Molyneux is hoping to outfox Gary Lawrence in the braking zone. Lawrence, the car sliding as he comes off of Rocket. No surprises there as the circuit gets wetter. It is going to be tougher to keep control of, but Lawrence snaking around a lot. So as they come up towards the inside of the hairpin of Peel, I've noticed actually that Lawrence has gone for different tyres compared to the first race because he had 4 orange rims on the car previously. He's got 2 orange ones and 2 black at the front this time. Nick Hull has managed to get well clear. Oh, and he's lost it! Not again! Oh, Nick! A big shunt to the final turn, and he's parked the car in the middle of the circuit. The car has come to a stop. That is a disaster for Nick Hull. Oh, my dear, the paint was barely dry after his last accident. Oh, Nick, such a shame, but unfortunately, in these sorts of conditions, it is fairly inevitable. And the safety car will come out. Oh dear, look at the back end of that machine. I don't think that's going to see the light of day again today. Oh dear, oh dear. Well, it is very slippery conditions here at Anglesey. We know that. Look at the rain on the windscreen of Kevin Molyneux as he tries to stay with Gary Lawrence. The safety car will come out, and that massive advantage that Adam Southgate was hoping to get down to James Coleman is now going to be nothing. Red flags, red flags. So they've actually decided to stop the race. The car can't be moved. A little later on, the race is going to get going again. And we continue on our way without Nick Hull, sadly. But now the race has restarted. And off we go into the distance. The rain has actually ceased a little bit since that second start. And this time Southgate has got away from Coleman, with Molyneux defending from Gary Lawrence down to the banking. But there is a little bit of tyre screeching as they go through that banking. Back on the power, Southgate runs over the curbs, and Coleman's going to get another squeak up the inside. That's beautifully done from Coleman. Well, James Coleman takes the initiative there as Southgate runs wide on the exit of the banking, and moving into the lead goes Coleman. Molyneux third, Lawrence in fourth. Fifth position is now Toby Smales in front of Harris and Baker. No, that's Baker in front of Matthew Harris now, actually. So Baker's made a better start on Harris. Defensive lines for Coleman and for Molyneux as they protect first and third place respectfully. That's going to give Southgate a chance to run alongside. That's brave from Adam Southgate, but we've seen quite a lot of bravery from Southgate over the course of the season. But James Coleman leads for the moment. Into Peel one more time. Let's see how they continue on their way. Dropping down the hill into Siemens once again, and it's Coleman, Southgate, Molyneux, Lawrence, Smales, Harris, Baker. I think Harris has got back through into sixth position now. We'll double check as we look behind us. But the top four are well together. Now, if this is going to be a bit like the first start and the first race... Oh, Lawrence has lost it! Lawrence does exactly the same thing Nick Hull did, and he's gone into the barrier as well. Nowhere near as much damage. He should be able to continue, but that is just how tricky it is out of the final turn. The water doesn't drain very well at this part of the course, and that's why Nick Hull got caught out in the wet, and Lawrence is caught out as well. Now that gives Nick Hull a very clear fourth position as we watch Lee Bowden going his way through. That is Hugh Pert, wheel to wheel with Peter Smith as they duke out over second position in the 924 class. That might even be third, actually. I can't quite see where Ian Gribben is, but if he's up there with Gavin Johnson, then that's a battle for third, not for second in 924s. So Coleman is your leader. Second is Southgate, third is Molyneux, fourth is now Toby Smales. Big problems for Nick Hull and for Gary Lawrence out of that final turn. It catches out the best of us, and here, unfortunately, it's caught both of them out. So Southgate now charging after James Coleman. Into Peel, dropping down the hill. Let's see if there's going to be any more thrills and spills at the Toy Crease circuit. This coastal circuit is a proper challenge, especially from this section on. They've come through Siemens, down into the bus stop. Southgate was carrying a lot of speed into that braking zone. I'm amazed he managed to get the car stopped, to be honest. As they come off that final turn, two drivers have already spun off at that point. They don't want a third. But Southgate and Coleman still battling away for the victory. Now, this is the run further back. This is Baker in front of Matthew Harris. So Baker in fifth, Harris in sixth place. Then it's Bowden and Johnson right in behind them on the road. This is 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. And Johnson, of course, leading the 924 category as well. Can he get a run on Lee Bowden? He's certainly thinking about it. As they go through Church, production boxer of Lee Bowden under some pressure from Gavin Johnson, who is set to take the lead of the 924 Championship if things continue on the way that they have currently gone. A really good battle in this particular section of the race. And still some good driving. Looks like with the time we've got left in this race, I think we're only going to get 6 laps out of this second start, and Matthew Harris has got past, as has Lee Bowden, because Andrew Baker, overshooting there unfortunately, has missed his braking point, and that has put him off the road. Several other drivers going through as well. I think that's Gary Lawrence who managed to get through in the back of this little queue as well. So here is the 99 of Matthew Harris. Then it is Lee Bowden. Then it is Gavin Johnson who leads the 924s. And then next, oh, that is Baker. And then it is Gary Lawrence who seems to have knitted his way up the inside of, I think that must be Peter Smith, is it? A little further back. Oh, bit of a problem there for Baker. He seems to be a little out of sorts after that little trip off the circuit. And Gary Lawrence is going to dive up the inside. Well, dives up the outside now, trying to get the momentum around the outside of turn one. He's going to have to work hard at this, but he's going to drag Peter Smith along with him for the battle. So Peter Smith trying to tuck up the middle. Gary Lawrence dives up the inside of Andrew Baker. Goes deep, allows the door to remain open for Peter Smith, and he gets through as well. Oh, that was nice and friendly, Gary. Not only did you make the move, but you managed to leave the door open for Peter Smith as well. So Andrew Baker trying to get back on the inside of Smith. Not quite able to on that occasion. As they continue to battle away. I'm fairly confident that this is not going to be a very long race. Looking at the time we've got, I think we're only going to get 5, maybe 6 laps at best out of this restarted second half of the race. And of course, the results of the first half do not count in this situation. It's basically the races started from the positions they were in at the time of the red flag. So it's like those first few laps we had were not even there, and Nick Hull is technically registered as a DNS. He didn't take the restart, which is a real shame, and unfortunately I fear he's not going to take up the start of the third race either. I think that car is going to be too badly damaged to continue the weekend. So a really exciting battle is obviously in the offing for the drivers. But this man, Gary Lawrence, is trying to fight his way further back. He's got Toby Smells to try and catch up to further up the road. He'll want to try and get a 4th position run if he can. But he's got 2 more drivers to deal with first. Gavin Johnson first of all, and then Lee Bowden. But that man, 99, Matthew Harris, could also be in reach if he just keeps pushing. So Matthew Harris having a really strong weekend. Back with the leaders, and it's still Coleman in front of Southgate. Nose to tail, these two. They've been no more than a second apart since the start of this race, and since the original first start as well. So it's going to be a really interesting run as these two continue to battle. But I think it's going to be James Coleman who hangs on in front of Adam Southgate as they drop down the hill for the last time. It is going to be James Coleman who gets the victory here. It's 1 for Southgate, but it's going to be 1 for Coleman as he comes out of the final turn. James Coleman gets the victory from Adam Southgate in second place. The checkered flag flies, 0.6 of a second between them. Molyneux is third in front of Toby Smells. Gary Lawrence fights back to 5th in front of Harrison Baker, while Gavin Johnson picks up another win in the 924s ahead of Peter Smith and Hugh Pert.
Really tough, yeah, it got really greasy, started raining mid-race, safety car came out, had to have the restart and keep the guys at bay, but yeah, delighted. It was a tough win that today, and I'm really happy with that one, really happy.
Another second place in the 924 class this weekend at Anglesey, but that could have been a bit different if you'd have had maybe a better start on the restart.
2 bad starts really, yeah. The beginning, wheels span up, didn't quite get off the line as I planned. Second start, the boxers got involved, and it's always tricky. You can get them on the corners, and then the straights come past and then back into the corners. So yeah, but to be fair, Gavin's quick, car's quick, you know, so I'm going to struggle in the third race. Maybe hope that he makes a mistake. I think that's the only way that I can possibly get on the top step this weekend. But yeah, all good so far though, really enjoyed it.